Hello and welcome to the 700 Club. The heat is on between former President Trump and the Justice Department over the FBI raid of his Florida home. Like many Republicans and Democrats, Trump is calling for the release of the search warrant, and it's expected to be made public very soon.
Reports are circulating that Trump kept classified nuclear information after he left office. Trump's attorneys are pushing back against accusations that the former president was hiding anything, saying that he's been fully cooperating with the government's requests. George Thomas has the story.
In a message posted online late Thursday evening, the former president called for the immediate release of the FBI warrant used to search his Florida home, saying the raid was un-American, unwarranted, and politically motivated. Hours earlier, Attorney General Merrick Garland, who said he personally approved the search, asked a court to take the rare step of unsealing the details of the warrant, despite a pending investigation. Garland making a statement without taking questions from the media.
The department filed the motion to make public the warrant and receipt in light of the former president's public confirmation of the search, the surrounding circumstances, and the substantial public interest in this matter.
Garland had been facing demands to explain the circumstances surrounding the raid on Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence Monday.
The Attorney General has faced mounting pressure in the last few days from Republicans and Democrats alike. Republicans
have been rallying around Trump following the FBI raid, criticizing the Attorney General for personally approving it. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham tweeted, "The primary reason the Attorney General and FBI are being pushed to disclose why the search was necessary is because of the deep mistrust of the FBI and DOJ when it comes to all things Trump." Media reports say that Trump was subpoenaed earlier this year for taking classified material from the White House, as the government believed he was holding on to sensitive information with national security implications. According to the Washington Post, classified documents relating to nuclear weapons were among the items FBI agents were searching for at Trump's residence. A Trump attorney pushing back against accusations that the former president was hiding something, saying the Trump team has been very cooperative.
All documents requested were previously handed over. President Trump and his team painstakingly reviewed every single document at Mar-a-Lago and gave the government what they requested. If they needed any other documents, they could have just asked.
While some have focused on the details of the search warrant, others want to see the affidavit that gave the reason for why the warrant was issued.
The warrant itself is sort of the conclusions. It describes the parameters of the search. What we want to know is why this search was ordered, what was told to the court, and did they reveal that there had been cooperation with the first subpoena?
Now, with the former president himself encouraging the release of the warrant and the growing leaks to the media about why the search was ordered, Americans should soon learn more about why the FBI carried out an unprecedented raid on the home of a former president. George Thomas, CBN News.
What a week in Washington, D.C. And, of course, over recent months, as many Republicans are trying to decide, should Trump run again, should he not? Is it time for some fresh blood? I don't think there's any doubt right now that Trump is a leading contender because of what David Brody, our chief political analyst, said just a few days ago on this show. Trump has become a sympathetic figure to many who would never have thought of him that way just a few weeks ago. Well, in other news, congressional Democrats are set to pass their major economic bill today over very strong Republican objections. And Ephraim Graham has that story from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Andrew, Democrats are set to pass the bill through the closely divided House of Representatives today. The measure focuses on more spending on issues like climate change and health care subsidies. It also includes more than $3 billion in new taxes on businesses. Democrats are hoping the bill will be a political win for them going into the midterm elections. And with inflation as the top issue going into those elections, Democrats have named the bill the Inflation Reduction Act. But a poll from YouGov found 36% of those surveyed believe the measure will increase inflation, while only 12% said it will decrease inflation. Studies by independent analysts have said the measure will have no real impact on inflation. Major American cities face a perfect storm. Violent crime is growing and law enforcement agencies are struggling to keep officers on the job. In an unprecedented move, police departments are bringing faith to the front lines, working to build stronger and safer communities. CBN's Brody Carter brings us this story.
786.
In Gresham, Oregon, Sergeant Travis Garrison says a crime spike is forcing his department to choose which calls and crimes they can send officers.
We're only able to investigate murders. We'll routinely respond to shootings, but if the person is going to survive, we are not going to follow up on that.
Triaging or prioritizing first responders is becoming commonplace. In Philadelphia, police disbanded its abandoned car unit, while in Los Angeles, police cut their homeless outreach and animal cruelty teams.
This is going to take years for us to recover from, and my hope is that the people that I work with, that they stick it out.
As a growing number of police walk away from the job, violent crime still surges in several major U.S. cities. As a potential solution, departments are now turning to houses of worship. They're hoping faith will help reduce this trend.
That there is a power greater than ourselves that is in control.
Tuesday, more than 25 law enforcement groups joined prominent faith leaders on Capitol Hill, inviting communities to participate in the National Faith in Blue Weekend. Dr. Reverend Markle Hutchins, head of Movement Forward, started this event about 5 years ago in Atlanta. He knows firsthand that one weekend can spark change.
With crime and violence escalating, with our communities under siege and under attack, our best march at this moment is not against law enforcement, but it's with law enforcement. And that's what faith-based communities are positioned to do.
In early October, Faith in Blue will seek to reinvigorate police-community relations through town halls, peace walks, picnics, and other activities nationwide.
That's what this is all about. It's all about activating local communities to raise the voices of the silent majority.
Chief Patrick Ogden sees these partnerships as key to building stronger and safer communities.
Policing is much greater than law enforcement. The enforcement piece is just a piece of what we do, and we can't arrest our way out of this problem. So we really need to collaborate with leaders in the communities to try to do educational programming, outreach, try to build that trust so people report crimes in a timely fashion so that we don't just have crime going on and on and on.
Brody Carter, CBN News.
Turning overseas now to the Middle East, when it comes to the heart of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, the same question of whose land it is keeps coming up. As Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem, a new documentary goes back in history to answer this pressing question.
For many around the world, including the United Nations, Israel is an occupier on land stolen from Palestinians. They often chant, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea means Haifa and Jaffa.
This is part of the strategy to delegitimize Israel. Not only is there a biblical mandate for the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel, but there's a legal foundation as well.
Producer Hugh Kitson's new film, Whose Land, disputes the accusation Israel is illegitimate by stating a legal foundation established more than 100 years ago. At the 1920 San Remo Conference, the victors of World War I divided the Middle East. The result included a British mandate, reestablishing a homeland for the Jews. The preamble states, whereas recognition has thereby been given to the historical connection of the Jewish people with Palestine and to the grounds for reconstituting their national home in that country.
I believe actually what happened at San Remo and in the mandate back in the early 1920s was God putting the title deed of the land of Israel to the Jewish people and enshrining it into national law.
Colonel Richard Kemp, former commander of British forces in Afghanistan, narrates the film.
You frequently get the narrative that Israel has no legitimacy, Israel is occupying territory. And this film shows that that's not the case. It shows that Israel's sovereign territory is legally its sovereign territory. And it is not illegally occupying anything. It is not, there are no illegal settlements. There is just a false narrative against the state of Israel based on falsehoods.
Camp adds many Jews and Christians need to know the true story of Israel's legal right to the land.
And I think this film plays a major role in educating people about the truth and about what the reality is compared to the narrative that is shoved down everyone's throat by the media, by some human rights groups, by the United Nations, by the EU and various other international bodies.
The film cites other experts, including international law professor Avi Bell.
Simply putting out the basic facts about what happened to whom when, why it is the Jewish people have legal and historical and moral rights to their homeland in Israel. It turns out this is of fundamental importance. It should be obvious, but it's not.
Many, including the Biden administration, continue to push a two-state solution as a resolution for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The long history of Palestinians rejecting this proposal leads Kemp to believe it's not what they want. In the meantime, he says, the campaign to delegitimize Israel carries global implications.
Not only does it affect Israel, it kind of discredits Israel's reputation for those people who believe it, but it also fuels and incites Jew hate around the world. And we've seen examples of that in the United Kingdom, in the United States, and other European countries, all fueled by this anti-Israel narrative based on lies.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
History holds the truth and the answers. Andrew?
All right, thank you, Ephraim and Chris. And to find out where you can see the documentary, Whose Land Is It?, you can go to our website, cbnnews.com, and there's more information for you there.